Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline and my today's guest is Doug Betts, and I'm so happy he said yes to our interview. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. How about you?
Wow, I'm fantastic when I see you, of course, and I would like to introduce you to the audience. First, you are the founder of SureBets HR Solutions Ltd in the UK, dedicated to helping business owners enhance employee experiences. With over 20 years of leadership, training, and HR expertise, you launched your consultancy during the pandemic to support businesses in creating positive workplace environments. Welcome to the Inspired Podcast, Doug
Thank
Betts.
you. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, my first question to you is, what inspired you to transition from HR leadership roles to starting your own consulting?
So it was a couple of things actually that made me want to make the change. I think first of all, I could still see there was a massive need out there to help small businesses that didn't know what they were doing when it came to their people. And it always surprised me that they were still getting so many basic things wrong and ending up in hot water, and they didn't know what to do about it. And that was definitely something that I felt I could help them with my years of experience behind me.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing and for doing the work, of course, to helping businesses. Yes, getting better results. How can businesses improve employee engagement and create a positive workplace culture?
I think the first thing they have to do is understand that this starts from the top with the person who owns the business or the MD. They have to create what is acceptable behaviour and what isn't, and then they have to live by that. And so do their senior leadership teams. And I think that will go a really long way with people, far more so than some of the other sort of short-term gimmicks and wins. And I think it comes back to human psychology here. People need to understand what makes people tick and what makes them want to do their best work. And if they can get that bit right, then they are more likely to have happy employees who don't want to leave and work for the competition.
Oh, I love the idea of happy employees, of course. And you talked about standards as well, or the word rules is not not so
Mm,
nice, I think, because every business owner has their own standards, of course.
mm.
And I heard one thing in the last couple of days or last week. I had an interview, and she said the highest standard is between clients, employees, and the management is to not gossip. What do you think about that?
I think that's one of many very valid ways of doing it, but I think you have to peel it back another layer and think, where does gossip come from? It comes from when people are uncertain about what's going on around them, so they will huddle in corners, they'll put two and two together, and they might make five as a result. So I think for me, it comes back to clear communication from the top. Absolutely everything, because you can't sometimes for commercial reasons, but you can be as transparent as possible. So that's how, for me, it should work, with clear communication from the top, and then that's likely to lead to less gossip.
Oh, yes, thank you so much for clarifying this. I understand, because when someone is leading from the top and leading by example, so the employees will always do or follow the leader, so to say, I would
Mm.
say. And I love how you use the word uncertain, because when employees are in an uncertain environment, you named it, then they are maybe not confident, or they are not certain about their role or what they have to do, and where are the limits, of course. So can you please tell us more about feeling uncertain at the workplace?
Yes, certainly. I think a lot of it comes from when there's no clear objectives, or there's no clear mission, vision, or values in place in a workplace, because otherwise people just turn up, they do what they think is their job, but we don't know whether it really is their job, whether it's providing any use and the biggest point here is, does it actually contribute to a bigger purpose as to why the organisation they work for exists in the first place? And I think everybody needs to understand where their role fits into the bigger picture and what that sense of purpose is, because a lot of people now, they come to work not just to do a job, but they want to feel that they're doing something useful. They want to feel they're making a contribution, and they want to feel that they're empowered to solve problems without being micromanaged the whole time. So for me, that's what it means.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. I'm thinking about a meaningful work, to have a meaningful job. And of
Mm,
course, when you talked about purpose or the vision of the company,
mm,
for example, how important is it to have a clear mission statement, so to say, and what role does do the goals in the, in teams, when you have separate like departments or teams and they
mm.
have different goals, how important is that?
It's important that they all link back to the original vision and mission, and that these goals are set on an ongoing basis. So I've never believed in annual appraisals. I think it's something that's outdated now, and people need to be having ongoing conversations, because business can change rapidly, so therefore the goals might have to change rapidly. But it's always good to set some so people know where they're heading. But for me, it's more about the short sprints rather than very long objectives, which could easily change or go out of date.
Yes, I see. And I also see your background, because you shifted or you pivoted during the pandemic, because we all had to adapt, right? It was
Mm,
different, and you named it goals. Normally you have to change when you run a business, right? You have to adapt,
mm,
be flexible, and then to adjust, we can also say. And of course, I
mm.
have another question for you. It is, what are some common HR challenges businesses face, and how do you help them overcome these issues?
Okay, so common challenges. I think it can start these days in the workplace themselves, where people are not way because no one's ever told them how to or what's expected. So again, it comes down to managers not having the confidence to have difficult conversations with people and putting it off. And I've seen this happen right up to CEO level, and I've seen the devastating effect it can have on other people and how it can annoy others in the business if they can see people are getting away with things. So here's where I help overcome the challenge. I train and coach line managers, either part of a group program or one-to-one. I give them the tools and techniques so they can feel confident in terms of having those difficult conversations, and in terms of how to manage people correctly, they feel that they can do that. But on a positive side, I also will help them in terms of, how do you reward your high performers? How do you keep them motivated? How do you keep them developed? And I do a lot of that as well, because you don't want people to stagnate and get bored either, or be left to their own devices because they're trusted. So it's that getting that right balance in a very, very common HR issue as well. There's also issues around recruitment, hiring and finding the right talent and doing it quickly. So again, while I can't control people in the marketplace and how they'll react, I can control how managers can behave, how they can try and get people in, how they can move through a process quickly, so they're not putting off prospective applicants and losing things in a very fast-paced, candidate-driven market.
Wow, I understand. So you help to enhance the communication between the HR and the managers themselves, of course. And I loved how you pointed out, you help the managers feeling competent, confident, and the other thing was comfortable. You didn't say this word, but I saw this word, to feel comfortable in their skin. I don't know if you say this, to
Yeah.
embody, to represent the role they are in. And you talked about the onboarding process, that people don't know what to do at all. So how can we improve this?
I think for me, the best advice I can give to managers is, don't just expect people to turn up on day one and you throw them at a desk and tell them to get on with it, and then you talk to them in 6 months' time when probation's come into an. You have to think about what they'd actually need to know how they might feel about settling in, and to try and make that experience as positive as possible, but at the same time not to overwhelm them with lots of new information. So it's about creating the right environment, making them feel welcome and valued from the start, giving them a bit of space to find and meet key people in the early days, but also giving them some work to do, because there's nothing more boring than just being left to your own devices with nothing to do and just waiting for stuff to come in. So it's a mixture of all those different things that I think will help. And again, some of the good managers I know are doing this really well and it's having the right results. But for some of the bad ones, they still wonder why people aren't there anymore. And it's a real issue.
Yeah, I understand. So it's like training on the job and not expecting that they will perform at their best from the first day on, because they cannot. They have to be onboarded, of course, and to feel comfortable, not in survival mode or something. And then you said something very important. It is about the quote. We all know that people join companies, but they leave managers, right?
Exactly. And therefore, I think it always stuns me that there's people who are promoted into leadership positions with no training. They're just expected to know it instinctively, and they can't. And often these people will feel a lot of imposter syndrome, which means that they will need some support and encouragement so that they are skilled, not just technically, which is probably why they were promoted in the first place, but also in terms of their own skills, in terms of leading and managing a team.
Yes, managing a team, so important. And what you said, you cannot cope, or I don't know the word, but when that you are assigned with the leadership role and you just grab a book about the first 100 days in a leadership role, and
Yeah.
then you are the best leader of the world.
Yeah, and it's not, people don't always learn like that. Some people prefer group learning and coaching, which is why I do that. Others, yes, like to read a book and then ask questions. So there's different ways. So again, it's saying one size doesn't fit all, and you can't always just chuck people in the classroom for a day and they're going to come out a fully fledged leader. A lot of it comes with experience, but there's so much about it. It's about understanding human psychology and how your team ticks, and being able to put the right things in place to support them.
Yes, absolutely. So you mentioned books as well, and you are a coach, you help people, a consultant, and do you have coaches for yourself? Or yes, and who was the coach, who was the best coach you ever had?
So for me, I have had several coaches, and it was right at the start of my career because I needed to learn a new set of skills in terms of growing a business. I didn't just have HR skills, I had to learn marketing, sales, business development, all of those kind of skills as well. So what that did, I had a coach right at the start who was very supportive, and she niched in supporting HR people leave the corporate world and start their own consultancy. So again, it was very specific to the sort of stuff I was doing. So yeah, she was a really good coach for me as well. And again, for me, it's also, I'm interested in people with marketing backgrounds coaching me as well, because obviously that's the biggest part of growing your own business, is getting yourself in front of people. With the eyeballs on your content online, or coming into your world, because I know the service I offer, people can't buy instantly because they have to know me, like me, and trust me first. So that might take a lot of touch points before they want to actually invest their money in using my services. So yeah, I find coaches have been really helpful in that. But I've also learned as a business owner not to do everything myself and to outsource some of the tasks too, rather than trying to do everything and burn out.
Yes, absolutely. And it is so important to ask for help or support, not only when it's too late, when you are already burned out. No, you can ask for help. And also, this is something we have to learn as leaders or as business owners, of course. And a
Mm,
mentor, a coach saves you time. Mentor was the word I was missing in
mm.
the question before, but you know what I wanted to ask you about your coaches. And my next question is about your goals. You pointed out how important the vision of the company is, and that every employee understands this and supports this as well. So how about your goals and your next projects?
So I think for me, I want to be seen as the go-to person for turning new line managers into confident people leaders. So that's why I run my 10-week program, and I want to grow that. I have another goal to grow the number of retained clients I've got. So that's paying me a monthly subscription for an outsourced HR service. And then from that, I've always done okay up to now out of project work, which has been quite lucrative, and I want to be able to keep that going. But I definitely want to grow the coaching and training side, and I want to grow the retained side. So that's what the two goals I've set myself and my business.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. And when people reach out to you after listening to this episode, where can we find you? And do you have special offers and services for the Inspired Podcast community? I know you already mentioned your subscription model or your coaching services consultant.
Yeah. So I'm very happy to be contacted. So people can get in touch via my website, www.surebetshr.com. I do put lots of free content out there anyway. They can contact me on LinkedIn too. But yeah, for the first three of your listeners who get in touch with me, I'm happy to send them a free copy of my book, From New Line Manager to Great People Leader.
That's amazing and so generous. Thank you so much. I'm so happy for your book, about your book. I put it on the book list because I created a list for all the books of my beautiful podcast guests. Thank you so much for sharing. And and now it's time for your final thoughts to the audience, please.
Okay. So I think I'm going to speak today to those new line managers out there who are perhaps feeling that imposter syndrome and are wondering what they're doing. And I think my advice is do not suffer in silence. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask your line manager if they've got the time to coach you and train you, but also get in touch with somebody like me if you need further support in terms of how to manage your team, how to step up and lead a team for the first time, and don't feel that you have to do it on your own.
Thank you so much. You are not alone. Please reach out to Doug. He's amazing. He shares his wisdom and information with us so that we are not alone. And this was our podcast episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
And see you in the next one.